talking about opportunities in Africa. Opportunities in Africa. Most of you here already have ideas about where you want to niche, and pursue as a career goal. But I want to tell you that I want to open your mind to other possibilities. Most of you, there are other possibilities you've not considered. Some of the possibilities are even in your industries. I know that a few of you are in tech, another person is in the NGO space, another person is in the art space, and a lot of things. But I want to unveil to you the abundant opportunities that exist so that even if you are pursuing your industry, you know where to position yourself. Because you can be in an industry, but your position at the bottom, and your reward will be very little. So I want to expose the industries that are available to you, the opportunities that are in Africa, not just the opportunities, but how to position yourself and how to take advantage of these opportunities. You're all welcome. My name is Manasseh, as you all know. I'm the CEO of Manax Capital Investments. We are a private equity. I've had over 10 years of experience in the consulting field. I've consulted for both startups, established companies in real estate, um, in technology, in fintech, in agriculture, and a diverse range of industries. And I'm going to distill everything I know about the opportunities in Africa. And I'm titling the title of my talk today, even though I'll be talking about opportunities in Africa, it will be Acres of Diamond in Nigeria. And the idea behind the Acres of Diamond in Nigeria is from, I think, Russell Conwell. He wrote it's not a book, but it's a lecture he gave many times, has been converted into a book. And the idea behind it is, it started with the story of a young man who was rich and wealthy, but then one time a monk came to him and told him about diamonds. Now, before then, he did not know what diamonds were, but when he was told the riches of diamonds, all of a sudden he became discontented. He said, well, I have to go and look for diamonds. So that's why the idea is coming from Acres of Diamond. So he left his house to go and look for, to pursue diamonds, to go and find a field, because the monk told him that diamonds are usually in white shores. And that began his journey and his adventure into finding Acres of Diamond. And as the story went, it ended sadly because after a long time of searching, he later died without finding his treasure, leaving his house only to go and pursue an idea of an acres of diamond. So now the story didn't stop there. We moved back to his estate where the monk that told him about diamonds came into his house, and he noticed that in the fountain and there were stones like that. And someone brought out the stone and kept it aside. And the monk was excited. He was like, um, is this guy back? Because he saw maybe he found what he was looking for. And they said, no, he's not back. This is just a stone that is everywhere that someone just pulled out. He said, but this is a diamond. He knows what a diamond is. And it is said that this is a true story, that the diamonds that was found in his initial estate that he left was one of the biggest discoveries of diamond. Now, this is a side story that he left what was around him, what was with him, to pursue a dream, pursue an idea. And he went on to tell countless stories, true stories. Acres of Diamond is not a long book. If you have the time, you can peruse through it. The author went through to emphasize similar stories of people who left their properties to go and look for wealth. And immediately sell their properties to go and look for wealth. People will discover treasures in the land that they left. There are a lot of lessons in about the Acres of Diamond. And I want to think that the author is saying that the grass is not always greener on the other side, that what you need is around you. And this is the lesson we'll be emphasizing today. But another lesson is know what you're searching for. If he simply knew what he was searching for before the journey began, it would have been easy. The idea is he left his own land to pursue other ideas that were around him. And this is the story of most of us. And I know one of the other stories I picked from you is that before you begin your journey, know what you are discovering, what it looks like. Because the average person, if you see diamond, if you see gold, if you see crude in its raw form, you will not recognize it. And particularly, I'm hoping that this session will be an education on the opportunities so that when you see them, you can identify them. But back to the lessons of acres of diamond. The major lesson is this: grass is not always greener on the other side. That whatever is you need is around you. And this is the idea behind opportunities in Africa and in Nigeria. I want to expose you to the diamonds that exist in this country. I know a lot of people, the phenomenon of Japa is everywhere, where everybody wants to leave the country in pursuit of other opportunities. But I want to tell you that the opportunities that exist in Africa is greater than any opportunities you will find out there. The best you can find outside Nigeria is a sustainable life, but it is not a life of wealth. I know a lot of people say Nigeria is chaos, like a jungle, there's a lot of problems, but the opportunities exist in these problems. Chaos the chaos is not meant to consume you. Like it's probably said, chaos is a ladder. If you can identify the opportunities that exist in these skills and these problems, it's something that you can thrive. So I want to tell you that there is acres of diamond in Africa, in Nigeria, and I would like you to take advantage of this. Now, acres of diamond in Africa, and I'd like to introduce a book to you, Global Bargains Hunting. And the idea behind Global Bargains, this, this writer wrote this book over 30 years ago, and it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. What he was saying was that there are more deals in third world countries, there are more opportunities in third world countries and developed countries. And as of when he wrote this book, the idea behind Global Bargains is, as of the time that he wrote this book, that's 30 years ago, he mentioned that there was the future of industry and opportunities are in the third world countries, and he mentioned some of them: Hong Kong, South Korea, Singapore, some of those countries that could have not yet bloomed. And this was 30 years ago. And right now, these countries have become like developed countries. But as of the time that he wrote this, he just saw that these countries is where opportunity is going to. Now, the premise I'm saying is that Africa and Nigeria have similar conditions, similar environments that these countries had 30 years ago. Countries like all the Singapore, Indonesia, that even India and China, you know, just like a self-fulfilling prophecy because they had the same challenges that Nigeria had. Now, the point I'm trying to make is the problems that Africa have are not indication of stagnancy, but an indication of the potential that exists. Now, let me jump into this. He gave two major arguments, especially when it comes to investing in stocks in the third world countries as of then, which Nigeria have the same. He said there are two arguments on why you should buy stocks and why you should invest in third world countries. And he said, now you can use this to as a criteria for selecting stocks. He said number one condition that you need in the in investment is potential for substantial growth. Substantial growth. Now, most Western countries they've developed so far that they've almost arrived their maximum potential. Now, this is the idea of substantial growth. A company like Nvidia is in trillions of dollars. Chances are the potential for accelerated growth is very little. Now, understand that AI is the future and anything can happen. But most of the opportunities in the Western countries, that is why in the Western countries, most of the times, a 20% return annually is, is profitable because most of them have already grown to their max. And because they've grown to their max, there's very little room for growth. But unlike the African environment, and most of it have followed Nigerian stocks, most of them have grown by at least 100% in the last 2 years. This is an unprecedented growth in Africa. So the idea is that Nigeria, because the growth we are already underdeveloped, investing in these countries, there's higher chance for growth. It's just like, I like to give this example. A child can double its height between the age of 11 and 13. Or maybe they have accelerated growth in their teenage age. Unlike an adult that immediately you cross certain age, at the most you can increase is by a few inches. In fact, the older you get, the more you shrink. This is scientific. And see Africa as the adolescent child, as a teenage child, where there is still room for growth. Because we've been so underdeveloped, the potential for our growth is high. See the developed nation as, in quotes, developed humans, that even though they can grow, that most of the times because of the level that they grow, they can only diminish. They only either they grow very little or they begin to diminish. But because Africa is so underdeveloped, the room for growth is so high. And this is where I want you to position yourself in these opportunities. So I want you to look at Nigeria and Africa with interest. That there is potential for substantial growth. As a matter of fact, most investors, when they are investing in companies, this is what they look for. Most companies, this is what they look for. Now, we are still on the idea of substantial growth. It's asymmetric risk. There is nowhere in the world where, now listen, I'm acknowledging that in Africa and in Nigeria there is risk. But the idea of an asymmetric risk is that if you lose your money, you lose 100%. But the potential that if it works, you can make over 1,000%. That's asymmetric risk. It's always worth the risk. You see, if you understand what asymmetric risk is if you are investing $100 to get $1,000, it does not matter whether the first one fails or the second one fails, or even the third one. In fact, it does not even matter whether nine different investment fails. You just need one for it to compensate for all the losses. It's the same with why companies put money into tech ideas. There is no guarantee that they will win, but they look at it that if it works, it brings back the return on their money. As in, this is how private equity invest. Out of 10 investments, they are ready that around 7 will fail. But because each of their risks is asymmetric, they are prepared that the three that will work, out of these three, two will cover for all the losses, and one is their profit margin. And this profit margin can make them very wealthy. This is the opportunity that exists in Africa. Despite everything that is happening, the asymmetric risk is higher. And a lot of people in the Western world will say, well, the risks are not worth it. But anytime they see China moving into Africa, they always complain. But China is willing to take the risks. You can't blame someone that is willing to take the risks and develop. Understand that they have questionable practices. But they see the risks and they choose to still go in. That's why they are seeing something that the Western world is not seeing. And I want you that even if the Western world is not seeing, you as an African, you as a Nigerian, or you as an elite investor, you'll be able to see it. So, first of all, like we said, bargain hunters. If you want a good bargain in investment or in opportunity, look for substantial growth. But the second thing that condition for why third world countries are likely to be some of the best investment you will do is you can get them at a bargain. So the name of the book is Bargain Hunters. What is a bargain? Something is worth $1,000 for 1,000 naira, but you get it for 500,000. No, so for 500. This is what a bargain is. It does not matter how valuable or how important something is. For instance, if something costs 1,000 naira and you buy it at 1,000 naira, that might not really be a very good bargain. But what if something worth 1,000 naira you can get it for 600? That's what a bargain is. It's the same idea that even though the Western world or the Western industries have value, but you won't get them at a good bargain. Most of them are already at their maximum. But African industries are below their value. First of all, in our stock exchange, from what I know, you know how companies with no revenue go public. It does not happen in the African market. In the African market, you have to have strong fundamentals. In fact, the entire valuation is based on fundamentals. Even though I know that we're trying to move and evolve so that funding can be available to new companies that are doing IPOs, but the current structures do not permit companies that do not have strong fundamentals to go public. This alone is showing that everything in our stock is legit. And because they want to protect reputation, most of our companies are undervalued compared to their peers in the developed and the Western world. African opportunities are undervalued. So, and one of the reasons that cause the undervalued is our naira dollar. So, your dollar has more purchasing power on African assets because of the disparity. Are we together? So, this is just an introduction to what we're talking about today. That there are opportunities in Africa. If you are looking for where to invest, whether it's stock, whether it's startups, whether it's industries, consider Africa. And those of you that are trying to build opportunities in Africa, I want to tell you that there are opportunities there. So before I go into industry opportunities and how to take advantage of them, I'll just talk about some things, some of the factors that make Nigeria one of the prime destinations for investment or building a business. So first of all, we have our population. This is our treasure. What I want for you is that after you leave this, you begin to appreciate some of these factors that exist. Nigeria right now is around 220 million people, and it's estimated that by 2050 will be around 500 million people, second only to India and China. Now that's the projection, and I believe that it is possible. And another thing is 70% of our population are under 30. That's to tell you that these numbers are not the numbers that will decline, that our future is still ahead. Unlike somewhere like Japan and China, most of their population are aging. But Africa's population is mostly youth. Now, this is what I want you to take from this. How does population affect my opportunity? First of all, you have 200, over 200 million potential customers. over 200 million potential customers. One of the reasons that China and India are ahead in their economy is because of their population. Because no matter what you do, your chance of success are always high because of the population number. Even if you can capture a little fraction of our population, even if you can capture a little fraction of our population, chances are you will thrive and you will succeed. So population, what is population? Customers. I know a lot of you. There are certain opportunities you want to pursue because you think it's so niched. But let me tell you, even niche market is a large market in Nigeria. Niche, it does not matter how niche your product is, because of our numbers, even niche markets can succeed. So over 200 customers. Another reason why our population is important is economies of scale. Now, economies of scale is, now let me just tell you the story. 2017 was the first time I was leaving Nigeria. We had I visited Ghana, and it was an eye-opening journey because on the way we stopped in the countries between Nigeria and Ghana. But I saw something very compelling. There are some products that they sell in Nigeria that they also sell in West Africa, like Indomie, like the pick and everything. But this is what I noticed: everything was more expensive out there than it was in Nigeria. And it was not because production was done in Nigeria. In fact, they also had local companies there. But it was because the economies of scale was in advantage of Nigeria. We have 200 million people that even if, because of our numbers, even if the margin of profit is very little on each manufacturing, they make more money than Ghana, than doing business in Ghana. Because doing business in Ghana, you have to make your margin of profit a little bit high to compensate for everything. But in Nigeria, you can make just a fraction and still thrive and succeed. Do you understand the idea of economies of scale? The more the number, chances are you can make it so affordable that, even if, for instance, now something can be 120 naira in Nigeria, but in Ghana, now the value is 200 naira. That's a very big bargain. It only exists because of our population. And that is why, whether you want to go into manufacturing, most countries, for instance, I heard that Guinness, outside um, this Ireland, the only place they have a factory is in Nigeria. Because they felt that it is like there's an advantage of economies of scale. instead of importing, doing local production will be worth it because of our population. Are we together? So this is one of our primary advantages, that because of our population, and I want you to work with this knowledge. Somewhere like Lagos contains 16 to 25 million people. So this is one of our advantage population. All right, guys. So let's jump back into class. So we said the primary factor that exists is our population. Number two, I've always given people this challenge. I always ask people, if you can tell me what Africa is the best in compared to the Western and the developed world. For instance, you can say China is ahead in manufacturing, or talent, or you can say, if you can, I've always given this challenge that if you can tell me what Nigeria was a country in Africa is better than than in the world, I'll give you 50,000 naira. And for instance, now you can say the best in movie production globally is the US. Or you can say China is the best in manufacturing. You can say things like India is where uh, maybe pharmaceutical thrive, technology thrive. This is the challenge I always give people. And I've told them, if you can tell me one thing that Nigeria or Africa is ahead, I'll give you a prize. And most of the times, people's answer comes short. Now, it's not because I want to undermine Nigeria. It is not also because there is no answer. There is only one answer. And the only thing that Africa and Nigeria has above anywhere in the world is potential. Potential. Now, if you tell me potential, do not count as an answer because potential is unrealized, unrealized attribute. Now, this is one of the advantages in Africa, that our potential is so high. I was talking about substantial growth. Our potential, the potential that exists in Africa is greater than any. If you look at anything we are doing, chances are we are performing far below expectation. That means that there is opportunity for someone to come and fill in the gap. It does not matter what we are thriving in, there's so much potential that is underutilized. Most countries are overutilizing their potential. A country like Japan is an island nation. They do not grow agriculture, they don't farm because, uh, from what I heard, that a lot of the earth can't grow anything because of volcanoes and a lot of things. But how is it that a small island nation, at a particular time in history where they are at the forefront of technological development, Japan, compared to its size, overperforming. But Nigeria, compares to our landmass, compared to our population, compared to the opportunities. But even, for instance, I heard that Nigeria is the number one, I think, in Africa or globally, that in the production of poultry, but we still import everything. We are number one in cassava farming. There are a lot of things that we are ahead, but even though we are still ahead in most of this production, we are still overperforming because the potential gap is very huge. Most of you now, if I ask you to go into the fintech industry, you say, why should I go into the fintech industry? There is a lot of competitors. We have OP, we have Money Point, we have banks. But do you know that 55% of the Nigerian population are underbanked? Do not have banking available to them. 55. That's over 100 million people, mostly in rural areas. If you have 100 million people that do not yet have an account or they don't have proper banking services, the potential for there is open to everyone. If our population is over 220, that means we have around 120 million people that are banked. Do you know there are nations that their population is under 20 million? Now imagine that you have five size countries with no banking opportunities. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Your potential is so much. 55% of our country are underbanked. And most of you will be afraid of going to the fintech. But you're only afraid of doing the hard work or the creative work. There is a lot of people that still need your services. Now let's even talk about infrastructure. You know, so let's move from potential to infrastructure. Infrastructure deficit. Now, when I talk about infrastructure, a lot of you will think about land. Now we talk about opportunities there. I have unique insight that you will not find anywhere, and this is what I want to teach you today. When I talk about infrastructure, you think about maybe our lack of railway system, a functioning railway system, a lack of proper routes for transportation and logistics. But let me tell you the future, the biggest infrastructure deficit we have. It is technological infrastructure deficit. Africa is behind the world in technology by 100 years. And I'm not kidding. When I say in technology, Africa is behind the world in technology by 100 years because we are so slow to adopting technology. Now, this is an opportunity gap for you. You don't even have to think of something new. Look at what is an infrastructure that is available in the global world that is not available in Nigeria and bring it. One of the most, at least successful startups is Bolt. Bolt is a knockoff of Uber. They saw an opportunity there and they brought it to Africa and they were number one. Now, I know that other people are going into that industries. Do you know that we do not have one trading platform in Nigeria? Trading is a mainstream opportunity area. In fact, as a matter of fact, most people cannot trade Nigerian stocks. They can only invest and buy stocks. There are a lot of infrastructural, technological infrastructure deficits. Look at how the Western world function and say, okay, how can I bring it into Africa? There's one idea I remember. I did a pitch for an idea, and the idea is up to now is not existing. The same way that there's Uber and there is Airbnb for houses and for transportation. There is this application in India. Now, I'm hoping that one of you can even take advantage of that idea. It's called Cloud Kitchen. Cloud Kitchen is an app that brings people. If you just have a kitchen, you can open an online restaurant where your neighbor can patronize you. The days that you overcook, the same way that they are Ubers, people that use their own personal car to provide transport services, you can use your personal kitchen to provide food services to people. The best that is available in Africa is you want to build a physical restaurant. But imagine if someone can create a platform where you know how many millions of people know how to cook, but because they don't have the money and capital to build a restaurant, their talent is wasted. But if someone can build this technological infrastructure, like what's technological infrastructure? A basic necessity for doing business. I want you to expand your mind that there are millions of opportunities. But this type of opportunity is not something you can go and do in the Western world. There's already competition. But here, our partnerships is your opportunity. Now, this is just one idea. There are many others like that. Just go find exposure. You go and watch movies, watch documentaries, and say, okay, what are people doing out there? What are the technology? And say, okay, I want to be the first to do it in Nigeria. If it's the market is there, if it's the money is there. Now, most of you, when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about the future, the version of you that will be at the end of this program, this business school. I know most of you might not see yourself as someone that can take up any business idea and pursue it. But I want to tell you that the version of you that will come out in the next few weeks can pick any opportunity and still try it. So don't worry, you are being prepared to carry any opportunity. Don't worry about the version of you now. It will change. I will equip you with the necessary tools. Now, so this is it. Africa is behind the world by 100 years. If someone can help Africa catch up with the developed world, there is so much opportunity and money in it. So when I'm talking about infrastructure, don't think of you have to build a company, you have to build, you have to have billions to build a physical infrastructure. No, technological infrastructure is cheap and then it's easily scalable. So when I'm talking about, I want to think futuristic, think tech infrastructure. Guys, are we following? Now, back to other tech infrastructure. Now, most people now, especially churches, if they have 100 million or 200 million, the first thing that comes to their mind is you want to build a building, a physical building. But in this age, you can use a quarter of that money to build technological infrastructure. You have more benefit and impact building technological infrastructure than building physical infrastructure. You spend millions, hundreds of millions to build physical buildings. It's absolutely unnecessary. In this age, investing in technological infrastructure is a more strategic move than building a physical infrastructure. But not many people will carry 25 million and sink into technological infrastructure. But many people can carry 500 million to put into a physical infrastructure. But these are the opportunities that exist. Think in that way. So now, before I go into industry specific opportunities, let me talk about the last general factor on why Africa is so good to the opportunities that exist in Africa. It is we have unskilled labor force. Good. Now, one of the biggest problems, remember now, I'm telling you that everything that stands as a problem for us is an advantage. Now, I'm telling you that the fact that we have an unskilled population or labor force, this also is an advantage. Now, I will start from the negative side of the advantage. If simple fact that you have unskilled, that means you have cheap labor. But that's not even the primary thing of unskilled. That's not the primary opportunity in unskilled labor. The opportunity that exists for you from a large unskilled labor is that a little skill from you will make a very big difference. You see, this business school you are going through, it will already put you in the top 20% of Nigeria. We have an unskilled population, but I'm telling you that a little knowledge will make you stand out. It will give you opportunities that is not available to a lot of the population that are available. Because as a matter of fact, every people are looking for leaders, people that know more than they do. If you can harness this unskilled population, the opportunities that exist is not just now, I'm talking about individually, that already it gives you room to shine. But I've always encouraged you, don't be local champions, but already gives you room to shine. But more than that, if you have the an organization that can provide skill value, you can access most of these opportunities because companies are looking for skilled people. Now, the opportunity is create an organization that will provide skill value irrespective of number because people are dependent so much on the skill. If you provide skill value, now I don't maybe because we're in a team, let me tell you we can build productivity apps. Do you know that one of the major problems of because I'll be giving you ideas so that I will train you on how to find ideas. And maybe this is something I might pursue, but you are free to pursue it. Do you know that one of the biggest problems in Africa is that our population is underproductive? People hire people and they pay them salary, but they do the minimum. Have you thought about creating an app where every employee puts log in every work they do every week? Whether it's the civil service or private sector. In fact, people can do it for themselves to keep themselves accountable. But what if you create an app where the government will force every employee to log in the amount of the exact work they did every week? If you say you make sales calls, put the information, how many people did you call? It will expose our own productivity. It will force people to be productive because you know that there's a recording, there's an accounting. The average person will do real work of less than 3 hours in a week. But they are being paid for a week. You see, in the Western world, they are paid by the hour. Because the value, but in Nigeria, because we do not even have a value on our time, you are not paid by the hour. You are paid by a month because the value they expect from you is very minimal. But imagine if you have employees now and you have an app where everybody can log in the work that they do. So that, in fact, logging it is not even just to keep your employees accountable, but it will help you figure out how to be more productive and efficient. How you can say, okay, if it takes you so hours to do this one thing, is that way we can optimize and do it better? So there's app for everything. I want to think when you think about solutions, don't always think about physical solutions. Oh no, we have to hire a new manager. technology can solve most of the Nigerian problem. I was seeing one of the former senators, he was having a clap back at the Nigerian legislature because there was a bill to give guns to what's it called, road safety, to do their job. And there was a backlash, and the senator said, in developed nations, people are looking to technology to solve their problems, not force. You see how behind we are, that we're thinking of, okay, how can we make the traffic control more effective, and they're thinking of giving them guns. But in the Western country, they have cameras everywhere that carry your information. They will send you the bill. That's the end of the matter. Guys, are we together? So there is a lot of opportunities. Every problem comes with opportunities. Now I'm telling you, in the Western world, this might not be a profitable opportunity, but in Nigeria it is. Think that way. So every factor leads to opportunity. Now we'll talk about the industries. So I'll back some of the major industries, and I'll tell you the value chain that exists so that you know you're pursuing the low value opportunities in these industries. So now, guys, so we start with different industries, not based on importance. First is the fintech industry. Fintech industry is the hottest industry in Nigeria. It's not the biggest, but the hottest, especially for the future generation, young people, young entrepreneurs like me. I'm planning on launching my own fintech industry company very soon to provide solution. But from the success we've seen, fintech companies, like the reason why fintech companies will succeed and will continue to succeed is because the deficit is still huge. 55% of our population remain unbanked. That's to tell you that there's a huge potential for fintech. I know someone that does a loan business. Loan business is fintech, or sometimes it's adashe, where people pulling money together. There's nothing that you can make into a fintech company. Now, for instance, now most of you know about the system where friends will come together and pull in money, and then they will be paying someone once in a while. You can build an online system like that. You don't have to trust on somebody where they will, especially if it's a salary account, where someone can commit that if both of you do contributions, or you can even do it by yourself. Now, companies, some of the most thriving companies are piggy bank, the saving platform. Other fintech companies are banking apps. Other fintech companies are the bamboo stock investment. When I talk about fintech, I don't want you to think about just banking, but even stock investment. Remember how I told you that there is no trading platform in Africa, something like Robinhood, where you can buy stock, but you can also trade it. Imagine that scale. Now, if I begin to tell you some of the ideas, you'll be blown away. There are many that hopefully we're going to pursue. But I want to know that there's an opportunity in the fintech industries for you. Flutterwave is around 3 billion valuation now. PayPal, no, Paystack, they sold for $200 million. These are unprecedented well that no industry will give you in Nigeria. So if you're here, you can choose to pursue opportunities around fintech. And to do fintech, you don't necessarily need to be have a financial background. Some of you here that are interested in tech backgrounds, you can merge, you can use your tech ability in the financial industry. Kingsley, you want to build tech systems. You can decide. The Money Point CEO, he started with building tech systems for banks. But you can choose to use your tech platform to go into the financial industry, or build an AI automated, maybe let's say trading platforms too, because most of the trading platforms that I'm familiar with, they've incorporated AI into their systems. The next one will be agriculture. I know Samantha will be happy with this. Now, let me just give you some facts from agriculture. So first of all, they said Nigeria have around 70 million hectares of unfarmed land. Most countries right now are looking for space to farm, but they do not have it. That's why I say Africa has abundance of potential, but they are underused. From what I heard, Bill Gates is liquidating his investment in tech and is investing to real estate, buying agricultural land. That's where the future is going into. And tell you the truth, the opportunities in agriculture will continue to increase. First of all, because a lot of people are leaving the traditional way of farming into urban and job growth. So that a lot of people, so the agricultural output will decrease because most of the people that are supposed to be farming are coming into the service industry. They want stable jobs. There is an opportunity for entrepreneurs to say, okay, fine. Since people are leaving the opportunity for me, I want to find large scale. Agriculture has a lot of potential. Agriculture contributes 22% of our country's GDP contribution. That's 22%. And from some facts, Nigeria is the world largest producer of cassava. Nigeria is the largest poultry producer and one of the largest groundnut producers globally. Interesting. So let me just say this just as an aside. The opportunities in agriculture is not just farming. But even the farming, it said that 700 billion has been disbursed through one of the CBN's program to farmers in Nigeria. 700 billion has been disbursed as loans, as support for Nigerian farmers. But let me tell you the biggest opportunities in this industry. Do you know that half of Nigeria agro produce is lost to spoilage or poor processing? Now, I know, like I said, I'm going to tell you the value chain of agriculture. Let's say, no, let's make it a pyramid. Let's assume that this is a pyramid. For those of you, if you can see it, let's assume that this is a pyramid for agriculture, agro, agriculture. At the bottom is subsistence farmers. That is farmers that farm for their family and for little output. Now, what constitutes the lowest is that they are the people that benefit the least from the industry because they just farm a very small part of their land just to sustain themselves and to make a little bit more. But this is not where the most of the opportunity is. There's another level. After the subsistence farmers, the next is, how do they call it? I think it's economic farmers. These large scale farmers that use machinery, they use, oh no, yeah, well, let's say economic farmers are people that, even though they don't just farm for their family, they farm for commercial purpose. Let's say commercial farmers. Now, these people might use, they know how to use fertilizer, but the margin on agriculture is not usually much. You can easily lose, the risk here is higher. You can lose to disease, you can lose to, right now, insecurity is a major challenge to commercial farmers. Sometimes you lose, sometimes fertilizer becomes too expensive, or labor becomes expensive. Because here, most of the times, it's the family that does it. But at the next level, it is you employ labor and a lot of things. The cost here can be so high that your profit might be little. But then there's another level of agriculture. Those people that have incorporated machinery and technology into farming. Most of you would think that the more you put into agriculture, the less you make, but that's not true. Most of the times, you can rent land, you can rent machinery to produce. Now we're building. And I'm telling you that at the bottom are producers, agricultural people that farm. But another level of the agro opportunity, hmm, service providers. Service providers are, now I'm glad that someone is studying agriculture here. Service providers are those that offer their expertise. Here the risk is much, but service providers, what they might do is they will sell you, you know how they said in where there's a rush for gold, the richest people are people that produce farm implements or mining implements. It's the same story here. That people that provide expertise, okay, now when I go to real estate, I will break a lot of your myths. It's just like real estate. Most people that make money in real estate are not the people that buy, they are not the investors that buy, it is developers and service providers. I'll give you the triangle of real estate investment. But people that provide services, consulting, or for instance, those people that if you are building greenhouses, you're offering services. Chances are people that build greenhouses make more money than people that own the greenhouses because they make a lot of money or provide the equipment. Now, then we have distributors. Distributors are people that they are middle people. They buy from one, and now this is where I want you to consider seriously. From here, from halfway, all the service providing, the production, all of this, the risk is so much, but then the return is very little. Distributors do not farm. At the lower level of the agricultural opportunities, we have subsistence farmers, commercial farmers, service providers. But at the top, we have distributors. These are people that would not take the risks, but then they will buy and export, or they will buy from a cheap area and sell it to a place where it's more expensive. You can call it COMEX, commodity exchange, where you buy things from the north, take it to the south, or buy things from Nigeria and take them outside the country. You can position yourself as a distributor. Now, let me tell you two people I know that are distributors, but they make a lot of money. How many people know how do they call these zobo leaves? Good. Red hibiscus. Yeah. So I know someone that he buys it in tons and exports it to China. Do you know that Chinese use it for wine? They use it for coloring, food color, natural food color. Everybody's trying to get organic. Now, in Africa, that produce might not be so valued, but in other parts of the world, it's a high value. You can make almost 20 times what you make from selling it in Nigeria. It might cost you just a little bit more to export and everything. But there are people that are waiting for supplies. What he does is he buy hibiscus and he exports it. I want you to think of, how can I be a distributor? If Nigeria produces something, how can I take it and export it to a place of high value? You use hibiscus for color, food coloring, you use it for wine, you use it for many things. You can export it. Let me give you another thing. How many people know baobab, kuka, the kuka leaves? Most of you, especially that you're in the north, these are things that they fall from the tree and they spoil. But do you know that that can be an alternative to milk? Some people are allergic to milk, but the baobab fruit can be an alternative to a natural alternative to milk. It can be a drink. I've taken baobab drink in restaurants. It's really nice. In fact, you don't even have to export it. Even in Nigeria, this is an underutilized industry that people are looking for healthy variety of natural drinks. People are tired of kunu and zobo. You can provide that as an potential opportunity. So we have distributors. Now, at the top, we have money. Okay, no, there are three layers. And then these top three, most of the times the opportunity is equal. We have manufacturers, people that buy food, and for instance, they can buy rice and process rice and sell it. But they provide things at they are raw, and then they turn into something more edible. If you know people that buy um, rice at this raw place and sell it, at some of the most profitable people. They are more profitable than rice farmers themselves, because rice farmers are taking a lot of risks. But apart from manufacturers, there are people that the opportunity that exists in agriculture is also in processing. Remember, I said 50% of agro produces end up spoiled. Now, I went for last year. I went for a pitch competition, where the person that took first, I was pitching this idea of the kitchen cloud, but the person that took first in that business was a lady that what they do is that they buy condemned fridge and then they attach solar to it. Now, her vision is that since a lot of market produce spoil because of lack of light, they wanted to provide solution to market people where they will just install solar on old fridges. Now, imagine that kind of concept. You don't need light to preserve food. She gets, I think there's some the points that they give for people that are trying to protect the environment. There are points that they receive and they are paid. But then that was she was one, but the idea was quite creative. Food preservation. Most of you can choose to, it might not take a lot of skill to learn how to install solar on fridges, on fridge. Most people do not have constant light to have cold fridges, but it's something that, so she's finding a solution in preservation. Now, There was also a competition last year. I think by Jack Ma. I think Jack Ma does a business pitch competition, and the lady that won $300,000 was also in the food uh, processing business. What she does is that she converts food that are about to spoil into feed and fertilizer. So the normal food that most of the times will spoil and be disposed, they talk about it. For those of you that want to learn more about this, you read about circular economy, where people are always converting one product into another. Food that are about to spoil, she convert them into fish feed. Now, I'm not talking about something so magnificent. It's something that you can do. That was the time that I was one of my agro consultants, a friend, took me to his farm. He farms hectares of farms, and in his farm, you can see a lot of mango trees, and the mangoes were very sweet. But most of the times, in that area, because it's a rural area, you see women selling big rubbers. I'm talking of the bulb, like the very big bulb. I'm not talking of small rubbers for 2,000 naira. Big rubbers, they will sell it for 2,000 naira, mostly because it will spoil and they are investing it is everywhere. Damn, that big rubber of 2,000 naira, I'm very sure that if someone buys it and take it to the town, they can make over 50,000 from it. That's how big it is. Now, I'm not just telling you opportunity about carrying things from where it is low valued to another place. But look at another opportunity. Some of you that have pig farms, pigs will eat mangoes. I know that it might not be the best use of it, but spoiling mangoes can be used as animal feed. Goats will eat mango. It supplements your food. But let me tell you the best idea that came out of it, I was thinking. Because it was everywhere, it was falling. When I was in Abuja, I entered the store. It was my friend that introduced me to it. There is a brand that dries mango. Dried mango is very sweet. It's like a snack. They dry fruit, mangoes, dried mangoes, they will dry it naturally and package it to be like a snack, healthy and natural. So imagine if someone goes into, okay, I'll start drying mangoes, I'll peel them, cut them into slices, maybe add natural sugar, and then naturally dry them. Have you, because especially in the Western world, drying fruits is a huge business. But it's not everywhere that how many places are you seen dry mango? And mango is just for a season. That chances are when mango is out of season, there are someone that have cravings for mango. They can go and buy dried mango. Okay, these are all opportunities in processing. Think of things like that. And then at the top of it is agricultural financing. I'm training your mind on how to find ideas. Agricultural financing. Most of the times, the people that provide money for most of this to happen benefit the lot, the most. Whether they are private equities, whether they are venture or banking, anyone that finance most of this makes the biggest profit. Now, I spend so much time in agriculture, but I'm mentioning much time because agriculture makes up most of the opportunities in Africa. Now, you might say, how can I access these opportunities? You might not have the millions to access these opportunities. The way to access these opportunities is to invest in public companies that have all of this. In fact, when I talk about manufacturing, there are a lot of companies that are public companies that are into manufacturing. You have to tell yourself, now I'm teaching you how to even select stocks. You can say, if you know that there's these opportunities and you can't get into it yourself, that's okay. What about the companies that are positioned in these industries? If you want to buy stocks, what are the companies with substantial growth potential? You say agriculture. You can't go wrong investing in most agro manufacturing companies in Nigeria because the potential is up. You'll still be in business. Last year, there's this good. It was the regulation can change anytime. Last year, Nigeria banned the export of cocoa butter. And a company that process cocoa butter, imagine how well it will be. Because you can't export cocoa butter, it has to be processed locally. Sometimes position yourself in these companies because regulation can change. Tomorrow, Nigeria can wake up and say, no importing of chicken again. And companies that are already public will go high because their value will increase. Guys, are we making progress? So now, this is agriculture. The next industry that we're going to talk about is real estate. Real estate. Now, guys, I'm going to tell you the simple truth about real estate. It also has a pyramid. Personally, I feel like stocks is a better investment than real estate. Maybe another time I'll give you my argument. But let me just give you the opportunities in real estate. Below are retail investors. Sorry. Below the real estate pyramid is retail investors. Retail investors are people that want to buy land and sell in the future. If you are that, you are at the bottom of the pyramid. If they tell you there is opportunity in real estate, it's not available to retail investors. Now, retail investors might profit. I'm saying that they profit the least. It is better to buy land and later on you discover that you overpaid for it than to waste your money. So it's better to invest in land, even if it's not going to work very well. But retail investors are at the bottom. Now, in the next pyramid of the real estate curve pyramid is service providers. Service providers are engineers, lawyers, agents. They are the people that make most of the money. They make more than retail investors. They don't even need money to make money. So service providers, I want to rush it because time is going. All right, I'm supposed to round it up. Oh my God, I've taken a lot of time already. So service providers, above service providers, I think the curve is not clear. We have developers. There is potential for real estate development. And the reason why real estate development has a lot of potential in Africa is because we have infrastructure deficit. It is said that Nigeria has 22 million housing deficit, especially affordable housing. Now, you as an entrepreneur, you can ask yourself, how can I make house more affordable? Can I use cheaper materials but more durable? Our problem in Africa is not necessarily that there are no other solutions. It's because we're not willing to explore them. So developers, what developers do is that they will buy a piece of land and divide it into small, small units and sell it to retail investors. That's why I said retail investors. Here they might can make 300% on their investment. Retail investors, developers make their money when they sell. Merely they are selling, they are already at profit. But retail investors have to wait before they make profit. So retail investors can buy a plot of land, maybe a hectare, sell it in small, small units. So at the end of the day, after they sell their small units, they might make 300% on their investment. While the retail investors, when you buy, they start waiting. But then they're already at profit when they are selling. You can access opportunities in development. You don't have to be a developer yourself. When you have enough resources, you can go to a developer and invest with him as a partner instead of buying small, small units. But above developers, we have contractors. Now, guys, this is one of the opportunities I want to teach you about. In Africa, a lot of contracts are going for infrastructure development, especially from government, because you have a lot of deficit. If you position yourself to learn how to secure contracts, it is a better opportunity than developing itself. Especially, it can be exclusively from the government or private-public partnership. I've had clients that look for contracts on how to build trailer parks, how to build. Of course, we need a lot of infrastructure. But the uniqueness of contractors is that you have to learn how to lobby. In Nigerian times, I know that they will tell you that you need to bribe, but you don't need to bribe to get contracts. If you know how to lobby, that's how the Western world does it. Build relationship or find relationship brokers with politicians. Most of the times, the way it goes is a quid pro quo. Maybe you make an arrangement where you contribute to their campaign and then they give you contracts. But that is not the route I want you to go. There's a way that you can find people that are close to these politicians. There's people that have relationship and influence with these politicians. And what you do is you offer them a contractual agreement. If they secure your contract, you pay them a fee. Sometimes you don't have to do it yourself. You can find someone else to help you find contracts. Now, the fee most of the times might not be much, but the risk to reward ratio is very high. I know one of my clients invested around 100 million to secure a contract. No, he got someone, a consultant that has a relationship with the government to lobby for the contract, and then the contract is around 40 million dollars for just 100,000. 100,000 is less than $100,000. 100 million is less than 100,000. $100,000. But imagine you're putting $100,000 to secure a $40 million contract. This is where the opportunity is. There are some people, and to be a contractor, you don't have to even be skilled. Now, this person that is the contractor, he hires me as a business consultant to help him run the project. He does not have the expertise, but expertise can always be hired. I'm trying to expose you opportunities that you don't need the expertise to get them. Most of you, whatever you do, there's someone in this business school, you do art. Find contracts, government contracts that will give you the contract to maybe beautify government house, a public institution, a government office. These are all opportunities for you. Then at the top, always is financiers, people that provide funding for all of this to happen. There are people that provide funding for developers, they provide funding for contractors as partners. If you have the money, you have negotiating power. Like my contractor now, the 100,000 he got, it didn't come from him. He looked for a financier. And this financier, from this little money, they can negotiate a certain percentage of the contract. But financiers can finance development or even uh, retail investors. For instance, now you want to buy a property, you can get financing. Okay, put your own money while someone invests in it. Now, let me give you another in real estate. Let me give you another opportunity. Um, Mortgage. The Western world have 60% of their population have mortgages, but in Nigeria, only about 5%. What is a mortgage? A mortgage is maybe if you have 30% of the money, you can get financing to buy a property. You don't have to wait until you make all the money yourself. You can always borrow against the property for additional finance and you pay eventually. These are all opportunities. Most of you can go into the mortgage industry because there's a market for it. There are young professionals that are willing to be paying instrumentally while they own houses now. They don't have to be paying rent, or they can buy a house, and rent it out. But they pay while, so you serve both of yourselves. First of all, for them, their property appreciates because they have a mortgage. And so in the future, even if it takes 10 years to pay, they are making profit, but they are also getting your own profit. But the good thing is that against the same property, you can loan it. If they default, you can take the property as compensation for your loan. But they've already put 30%, so they will not want to default. Nigeria has less than 5% of mortgage available to its general population. So let me talk about which one should I talk about? Let me talk about mining. The average person does not think that there's opportunity for them in mining. But let me tell you something. If you are young and you have energy, you are more prepared to access opportunities in the mining industry. Now I told you that Africa is full of potential. We've not even exploited the natural up to 20% of the natural resources that's in Nigeria and Africa. Lithium, tin. In fact, I heard that a lot of the tin place in Jos has been abandoned. You can decide to pursue opportunities in mining, whether it's petroleum, whether it's gold. I know that it comes with its own risks. I was watching a movie, um, Landman, and the owner of the petroleum company said, "Our business is full with long stretch of challenges, but brief moments of success." And I tell you, it is this brief moment of success that makes billionaires. Now, I want to tell you that in contract, you must be willing to fail a lot of times. But the few ones that work, to be worth it. Apply for as 50 contracts. If you get one, it's worth all your effort. The same way with mining. It's a lot of challenges, but the brief moment of success can compensate for years of, of the hardship. Even petroleum companies that you see today, they still go through a lot of challenges. But the brief moment of success where everything is working perfectly well covers for it. Consider opportunities in the mining industry. The opportunities there. Sometimes just I have a friend whose dad does is a miner. You'll be surprised the kind of how do they call it, luxury stones that are not popular around the globe, but they are available in Nigeria. If only if you go and pursue those opportunities. But because it might be capital intensive, but then that's what financing is about. One of the things I want to do to you from this program is I want you to live here with a mindset that I have to look for financial partners. We are dreaming so little that the only opportunities we want to pursue are opportunities that we can handle ourselves. But there is financing available for you if only you pursue them. And I understand the African mindset. Usually think that as an African, the same way I'm not willing to carry my money and give somebody, why will someone be willing to carry their money and give me? That mindset is an African mindset. It's a poverty mindset. The Western world have people that their entire job is to find people with ideas to finance. If the if your fellow African will not finance your idea, look for international investors. Their mindset is I want to take the risks with you. If you can give them uh, proper projection about return and their risk, they're willing to invest in you. Stop putting yourself down, stop putting your idea down that nobody will invest in you. No. If you are going to pursue the right people, there are people that are looking for you to invest in you. Those people even want gold is more than you want their money. Well, the idea is finding gold is. So if you position yourself long enough, most of these things will come to you. Like personally, I've been positioning myself as the gateway to investing in Africa. I want it to in the next 50 years that they're talking of I want to invest in Africa. Who should I do business with? Let them think of me. Let them think of me as their local partner. Let them invest through my private equity and stuff like that. So facilitate. So mining is an opportunity. Now, one of the most promising industries in Africa is entertainment. Hollywood is already doing very well. I think their annual revenue contribution is around $2 billion to Nigeria. But the world is evolving so fast. Content creation. There is nothing that you're doing that you can't do content creation around. Now, I'm not talking about the low level content because content is important for marketing. But I'm talking about it as an industry and an opportunity to pursue. Now, those people that will make the most from um, entertainment industry, it's not just people that create content, but people that create platforms. And I'll not advise you to start creating platforms because you can't outcompete YouTube. But you can gather talent around and create something incredible. There's this Comedy Central in the US. What they do is that they hire script writers, they hire comedians, and they produce content like a production company. They produce comedies, well thought scripted comedies. You don't even have to be a face in the content you are creating. If you can pull together resources, it's the same way that we have brand labels that bring together musicians. There's this popular Christian label called Maverick City. I just learned that the person that owns the Tribe L record, because Tribe L owns the Maverick uh, group, he does not know how to sing, but he just brings people together know how to sing. He brings producers, and he's rich. You don't have to know. So create platforms that organize talent. This is an opportunity for you in Africa. So, for instance, now, if you are in the art space, you don't know have to know how to do art. Find artists that are creating stylish accessories, home decors, and bring them together and just create a platform where you sell. Come as an independent, sell it cheap, while I sell it to the general public. If you learn how to organize talent, you profit from the opportunities that's in Africa. So we talked about looking for contracts. We've talked about mining. There are other industries like the educational industry, the edtech. A lot of people are looking for alternative. Schools are getting more expensive. They are unsafe. With all of this um, insecurity. Someone here can decide that I want to go into the edtech industries. You can tell it that schools are not safe. Why don't you homeschool your children? Personally, I intend on homeschooling my children. And if there is no platform that is good enough to give quality homeschool education, I'll build it if I have to. For some of you can question that, I mean, a lot of people that you can make the education cheaper, they will choose your option compared to schooling option. Because schools are becoming unsafe, people are scared about what their children are learning in public institutions. But you can offer affordable homeschooling. And let's say that you don't even want to compete with schools. There's a lot of gaps in our educational system that you can provide a unique course that covers for all the gaps. So even people that are in normal primary school, secondary school, you can create another different institution that covers the gaps. Let's say knowledge about technology, entrepreneurship, money. These are all educational gaps that people can build edtech companies around. There's opportunities there if you are creative and you can build a proper system. Some of the most successful tech companies in the world, tech companies, something like Duolingo, learning of language. If you can build a system like that, these are opportunities for you. So if you are looking, and most of these opportunities I mentioned, I promise you that, oh, I assure you that if you go to the US to compete in these industries, you will fail. Because there's the competition is so strong. You might not fail, but the competition, the chances of your success are lower than here in Nigeria. If the opportunity of succeeding in the Western world or in the developed world is 20%, it's 20%. I show that in Africa, your chances of succeeding in the opportunity industry is above 70%. Because very few people are doing it. The competition is low. Even if you have competitors, so many people are committed to excellence. And I'll teach you something when we are talking about strategies. Strategies win the game. It is not the idea. I'll teach you how to beat anyone in any industry. These are opportunities for you. So now to close this session, each of you will tell me which industry are you pursuing?